This is Salma.
Hello.
Long story short, Salma has been taking an art class which focuses on traditional Chinese art. So I had this fun idea. What if she draws a painting and then I will try to remake that painting in Photoshop and we'll see how it turns out and we can have a nice side-by-side comparison. I'm actually doing this for a school project, so if you happen to know the person who looked at the IB program and thought we should add more stuff to it, say hi to them from me. Without dragging on the intro, let's begin.
Here I'm drawing the horizon line, and then I'll draw a foreground mountain. So it's going to be close to us, so it has to be darker. My painting stroke is very jumpy, and I just bounce my paintbrush off the paper.
Nice, and like you take more paint when it has to be
on the foreground.
Right.
In the middle ground, I'll draw some bushes and trees and reflections, obviously, because we're gonna have some water. Always, reflections, when you get good reflections, it always looks realistic.
Yeah, it gives the sense of like water being there.
Yes. And then we're going to have a middle ground mountain. The middle ground mountain will be a little bit lighter than the foreground mountain.
So here's the second mountain.
Yeah.
A little flatter and hazier.
So as I get farther, I leave less spaces.
So now, it's my turn. In Photoshop you can't leave the sky blank. The sky can't just be white in real life. You have to put some clouds there, blend them together, create a nice looking sky, maybe a color fill in the background. At least some sort of color and some sort of clouds that match the atmosphere that your painting is going to be in. So I chose to work on the foreground element first, the rock structure, because I thought that would be the most challenging part. I downloaded some images that I liked that could match the foreground rock. Some of them I discarded, some of them I kept, and I experimented a lot with the rock structures, shadows, highlights, everything. That took forever, but at the end of the day I was happy with the nice looking foreground rock structure. After that, it was time to add the horizon line, which is what Salma did in the first place. It's just really hard to remove backgrounds from spiky trees, so unless you want to go point by point and do all that stuff, which obviously I wouldn't be doing because that would take forever, I just went with the lazy approach and it didn't end up looking great, but they're still in the distance and they end up losing detail, so I guess that was fine. It turned out decent at the end, and it doesn't really stand out as something looking extremely horrible. Now it was time to add the first mountain. The first mountain that I added really looked like the one in Salmo's artwork, just spiky, standard mountain looking mountain. The second mountain had even less contrast, even less color value, even less detail than the first one because it was farther away. And I also added those nice, this nice color fill, and painted it in with the brush in between in between the two mountains. And what that creates is an illusion of fog or mist or atmospheric depth, as we call it. And that's what really makes these mountains look apart from each other, and also gives you a sense of scale of the landscape that you're making. So then for the third mountain, I think the best one I saved for last. It's a mountain that looked like Mount Fuji, and actually could have been Mount Fuji. I just had just made no effort to look it up. But the point is, it was a great looking mountain, and it looked very majestic and powerful in the background. It looked huge compared to even the two mountains that I put in before. And I like it a lot, how the mountain turned out. I had a couple of struggles though with the placement of the mountains. They kind of look cramped together and stuff, but I ended up fixing that later. And after that it became harder to follow along with the reference literally, because there are some things that are easier to do in painting than they are in Photoshop, and vice versa. So I decided to opt with a big tree to help with the framing and to make the artwork look good. And I put a human there, and actually putting like small humans in the artwork is a great way to give it a sense of scale. And a sense of scale is really what makes the artwork pop, and it sells the whole landscape at the end.